Hello and welcome to the Irving P. Feldspar channel. Just listening to the radio, heard an advertisement. In these trying times, you might need cash. So this is a good time to trade in all those old coins and sterling silver flatware that you might have. Oh, geez, you know, come on, people. So this is the social menace edition of the Irv Rants. I'm going to try to keep this as short. Regular viewers, watchers, listeners know that I tend to run my mouth. Yes, I am very verbose. I'm part of an older generation that takes the time to... conversations are something called parenthetical diameter, where you keep coming in and out of the main conversation in an attempt to fill out additional information. Now, if you're in your typical family, this will drive you totally crazy, like it did with my grandma and her family, and my mom and the aunts, and they couldn't tell a story about going to the grocery store unless they went through about 8 side stories first. Similar to that is anytime we tried to leave, escape, you know, go home, you know, after visiting, it took an hour from the time we said goodbye to the time we're actually in the car rolling away. So yeah, it's frustrating to have conversations like that, but all the same, from a long, well-rounded, fleshed-out conversation, you will grab a bunch of great information. So, in these trying times when you're tempted to sell the family heirlooms so you can buy your Twinkies and Pop-Tarts, no, sit down with the family and talk it through. And, you know, with brainstorming, you got to let go of your inhibitions. So you've got to be ready for the perceived insults or the criticisms of your planning and preparation. Your thoughts, your ideas. You might go to the living room with the family, with your partner, and you think you're going to come to some conclusion. And if you have a closed mind, yeah, hell yeah, you're going to come to that conclusion. But if you have an open mind, you might be surprised at how many wonderful ideas come from that. Going back to a conversation, I think it was yesterday's rant, find out what you have in common with people. Don't be looking for the differences. The manipulators out there are going to demand that you find differences. They want you to see why the one is supreme over the other. All right. So the social menacing edition, yeah, there's a lot of asshats wandering around. I guess the big example was a bunch of irresponsible people down at the spring break in Florida. I'm not going to fault the entire crowd down there. What I would say is a large number of them succumbed to the herd mentality, and they were delusional in thinking that they were invincible. Personally, I'm omnipotent, and I don't expect to be going down. Of course, that thought lasts until, you know, I have 3 drinks instead of 2, and I wake up with that hangover, and I'm all nasty for a day, and I'm the whiniest person in the world. So yeah, you got to prepare yourself for the worst. It's not that hard to do. Nobody wants to think on it, but you're going to have to ask yourself, how do I plan if the family gets infected, you know, that sort of thing. What am I going to do? What are the doctors? What are the resources? You know, a lot of preparation. People are waking up now and going, oh my God, what do I do? Well, it's mostly too late. However, going back to catastrophe theory, again, you need to talk these things through and look for the, if you play chess, you got to go out to the 17th move or the 37th move or something like that. Right now, the way I'm looking at things is everything is being locked down by slow increments. You know, it started as, you know, this loose sort of, hey, you know, stay out of everybody's faces. And then as time went by, they're locking down more and more stuff. It is reasonable to assume that there will be a total lockdown and that there will be some sort of local authority assignments as to who can go out and obtain resources. Okay, we have a squad taking radar on the entrance to town. This is Sandburg Junior High School on the right, originally known as Elmhurst Junior High. Carl Sandburg, as I've mentioned previously, was a member of our community, wrote quite a few poems. A lot of the Lincoln years were written here. We decided to commemorate him and thank him for being a resident by naming the junior high after him. He actually came out to the town for the naming ceremony. Life goes on, folks. You know, Boris Pasternak wrote something called Dr. Zhivago, which was turned into a very successful motion picture. My observation from the motion picture is that our hero, Zhivago, even in times of desperation, he still found the beauty of the world, and he would write his poetry. You gotta be able to see your cup as a cup overflowing. You're living in a very wealthy nation, and yeah, you might be cranky and whiny about what's going on and the lack of resources. Take a look at Central America, South America. Take a look at some of the European countries. Take a look at Asia and Africa. Yeah, that should be a wake-up call for you. What you have here is far superior to 95% of the world. People should be grateful for that. I'm not saying it's complete or it's adequate or it's all there is, but I'm saying you are already better off than most people, and the people in this country have the best chances of surviving and overcoming and persevering. Unless you encounter a social menace. So how do you prevent social menaces? Well, you got to make your space known. You know, in the old days, that would be rude if you said, hey, get the F away from me. Okay? These days, I think that's perfectly acceptable. You need to preserve your space. I'm not saying, you know, go ape stuff on the poor son of a gun that violates it. But set the example for your family. Set the example for your neighbors. Set the example at your workplace. And if you do come across a social menace, you probably are going to be the first person who has attempted to recondition the person's mind. I mean, outside of street justice, there's not too much you can do to somebody who's arrogant, who don't want to listen, who knows more than you. But most of the time, you know, a good stern rebuke. I love that word, rebuke. More dog walkers. This is a dog walking conspiracy. Dog walkers meet dog walkers. Yeah. So Saturday morning here in Elmhurst, Illinois, I'm in the heart of the Metroplex. Almost directly across the street from where the turntable used to be. In this town, I'm not really seeing panicked people or anything like that. However, I do want to remind people that anything that's government related is stretched right now. Here it's Saturday morning, we're about to go into some predicted thunderstorms, heavy rain, heavy downpours, outside chance of a tornado, I want you to think about this one. If the government is stretched and you get into a flooding situation, or your shingles get blown off, you get water in the basement, there's a tornado, the dogs are running wild in the street, you know, government isn't going to come to take care of you. Make your plans now. Make provisions to take care of any of the emergencies. Well, if your house gets flattened in a windstorm, or the roof gets carried away, or there's an earthquake, there's a fire, what's your plan? Have you thought it through? Well, here's the thing about planning. You prepare for the worst, hope for the best. You plan, you think about, you contemplate, you meditate, and you can't cover everything, but just by thinking things through, you are pulling the knowledge out of the back of your brain, you're doing a mental inventory, and then hopefully you're also doing a physical inventory as to what your materials are going to be like should you have that personal emergency. At this point, you should have put together your personal first aid kits. You should know where all your medical stuff is in the house. You should have a bug out bag. Today's news, you know, we're talking about the military, Corps of Engineers, building massive hospitals. McCormick Place in Chicago is going to be turned into, I can't remember, 3,000 bed emergency hospital. In New York City, the Javits Center is being used as an emergency hospital. I know some of the existing hospitals are going to use their provisional plans. A lot of these people got smart in the last 4 decades, and the hospitals, when they got built, they usually would have something like a place for indoor parking, but when they built it, they knew that they could swiftly turn their indoor parking into a sheltered patient area. So these hospitals with their indoor parking for the doctors, well, the doctors will be parking outside now, which is probably good for them. They're probably happy about that. But then all that square footage now can be used, applied towards the additional patients that they once thought could maybe happen. So congratulations to all the institutions that thought that one through. Man, there's a lot of dogs out here. Your bug out bag, yeah, you should have a bug out bag. You know, everybody's sheltering in place, but going back to what I was saying about the tornado, the windstorm, whatever, you just don't know. Have a kit ready that all you have to do is grab it by the handle and run. Okay? It's a little bit of insurance, especially if you got the small kids. You know, pillowcase, a small satchel, a backpack, some crackers, some water, toiletries, you know, things like that. We got a train coming out of the yard here. They all look so happy and friendly. I'm talking about the owners, not the dogs. I'm pretty sure the dogs can sense that there's something wrong. Most dogs are fiercely protective of their ownership. Cats, on the other hand, are like, "Oh man, you've messed up." Bleh. Yeah, the cats stopped giving stuff. They stopped giving us stuff sometime when Ramses was the king. Okay, so Social Menace Edition. Yeah, there's people out there that want to be a social menace. I'll leave you with the story of my great uncle Donald. I think I related this a couple times. This was up in Sturgeon Bay about 1912. My grandfather was the oldest of the 5 brothers, born in 1904. The brothers all came on after. Donald had been born about 1910. He was about 2.5, 3 years old up there at the house in Sturgeon Bay on Maple Avenue. And they had some friends and family, rather it was friends, acquaintance that came over to visit. They brought over their kids, and the 2 families interacted together, and the kids played together. The visiting family never revealed that they had just gone, the kids had just gone through whooping cough. What is that? Petrosis? Little Donald got sick a day or so later. He was getting really bad. Grandma told Grandpa, go run and find the doctor. Grandpa got back pretty quick with the doctor. By then it was already too late, and little Donald passed away. The family, to this day, I mean, 1912, so okay, what is it, 108 years later? To this day, the family is still cheesed off at these other people. I hear my sainted aunt tell the story, and, you know, she talks about how her mother was so upset, you know, with that thing. Her grandmother, I should say. So, we've been blessed that we've had some really good things going for us, and now we're going into a tough period of time. You'll get through it. The more knowledge you put into your head, the greater your chances are of survival. The better you educate your family, friends, and neighbors, the better chance we have as a group of surviving. Okay, I'm passing Torres Fresh Market, formerly known as Berkeley Finer Foods. And this is St. Charles and Wolf. By the way, this restaurant on the corner here, JK's Restaurant and Pancake House, that was built as part of the old chain Red Barn Restaurants. Red Barn Restaurants. And the Red Barn Restaurants, they did a whole country motif, and, you know, oh, come on down, you know, get some good old country time cooking. Well, both my mom and dad kind of grew up in a country time atmosphere, and they much preferred city cooking. Which reminds me of a story my uncle told me. He says there's a lot of places that have signs out front to say home cooking. Well, there's a lot of home cooking that ain't so good. All right, friends, be sure to check out the playlist. Be sure to check out all the newly uploaded stuff. I'm going to try to continue to bring you information. I wish you all the best. You hang in there, and I'll be talking to you soon.